Dolores Jones, your comeback coach. I am so glad that you all are kicking off the new year with me. And I'm just serving up the nuggets, baby, because you don't need another year like 2022 or 21 or 19 or 15 or 16 or what have you. What you need is to be productive and to be successful and to be happy and to be whole. And so the topic that we're getting into now, my guest is back. She's ready. She's revved up and ready to go. Let me put her out here. You ready to go?
Ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Come on. Here we go. There we go. Oh, yeah. There you are. Catriese Johnson is back, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! I'm excited. Okay, listen. You are as excited as you want to be.
That's right.
Our topic real fast is the worst is over.
Yes.
5 strategies to living your best life in 2023.
Yes.
I want to remind you that we are live and that your comments will be live. So feel free to ask your questions for Catriese. And if there's any way I can answer any questions that you would have, feel free to do it. Y'all know how we do it, right? Okay. So let's get this party started. So Catriese, we just came off of another video where we talked about how to have success in 2023. And one of the things that we also looked at was, your past. And we both have some similarities. And just to put it out there, Catriese and I met over how many years ago was that?
When I was 16.
She was 16. Oh my goodness. And I was 23. Not too
So it's almost 30 years?
Almost.
Wow.
Watch your mouth, okay? I'm 52. And how old are you now?
I am now 43.
What?
Yes.
You said black don't crack, baby. We just get better with. Listen, we like fine wine. We get better with time.
I don't even know. People are like, what do you feel like? Don't you feel like you should slow down? I don't feel anything.
Well, you just brought a segue to this interview.
Okay.
Because you said when you know your purpose, your life looks completely different.
It looks different.
Right.
It looks completely
different. Now, for 16 years, you lived in a foster home. In 2022, you closed 2 multi-million-dollar real estate deals. What we're going to talk about is how to get from the worst to the best. And you're my guest.
Wonderful. I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Now,
Ms. Jones.
You're so welcome. Yeah, see, you were so respectful in school.
I know
you call me Miss Jones, and that's how we were brought up. So you can call me Miss D if you want. What do you want to call me?
I love my teachers. All of my schooling, I've had some of these individuals and angels that I'll just call teachers. Some I'm still connected to, like yourself and Mr. Archer. There's so many. There's one that just reached out to me and shared something that I wrote at 17 in their class, and it just brought me to tears.
Well, speaking of writing, you said one of the things. Just tell this story again. I was your substitute teacher. I was filling in for a news teacher who never came back. I was reluctant because I had just finished trying to work at a news station here in Kansas City and was basically asked to leave. That's just the truth. And I was in this meeting. I was in the meeting and I dressed up because I was like, God, this is gonna be it. I'm about to go on TV. And the Mr. Chu, that was his name, no pun intended. He chewed me out.
Wow, Mr. Chu.
Henry Chu, to be okay? And he closed the shades and he went in on me. He started telling me how horrible I was and that I needed to go back down south.
Wow.
Yes. And so I remember sitting in the chair and I was saying this to God. God, don't let me cry, as he was chewing me out. And what happened, Catriese, and I'm sure you can relate to this.
Yes.
When I opened my mouth, I started speaking in tongues.
Oh, well, yeah. Yes, I can relate.
Now you have to imagine I'm sitting here like this. God, this is not professional. But he is a very present help in the time of trouble. And so I looked at Mr. Chu and I said, because he said, I know you want to hit me. So I said, Mr. Chu, I don't want to hit you. I want to hug you. And I said, you don't know how many times I literally cried. I didn't want to go to work at the TV station. I had anxiety on Sunday. Now, there are many people out there because about 87% of people hate their jobs that they go to every day. And then some people die on their jobs and people don't even notice them. That's a whole nother story. The number of heart attacks increases on Mondays. They have proven that because people go to places they don't want to be. Okay. So I told him, this is what I told Mr. Chu years ago. You said 30 years ago. I said, Mr. Chu, I know where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be somewhere preparing people that meet somebody like you who tell them what they cannot do. They'll know that they can. And I ended up getting in my car, my little car. We're going to talk about your car and the one you started with a screwdriver. We're going to talk about that because that was something else. And I heard these words. I gave you what you wanted. Now let me give you what you need. And my next job was a substitute teacher in Missouri at East High School, where I met you, and you were a 16-year-old girl, teenager, and I was a 23-year-old recent graduate of there's a lot of Memorex. You just got to go with it, okay? I was a new graduate from the University of Missouri School of Journalism. Who is that? Can't hear. They can't hear you on your page. Can they hear on my page? See, RF is there.
RF is in the stream. Okay.
So you can tell them to go to your stream.
Okay.
She's gonna put the stream in there for y'all. You want me to cut you off until you put the stream in there? Okay.
I'm fine.
You still good? Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, I reluctantly accepted a job as a substitute teacher in Kansas City, Missouri School District. Had I not taken that job, Catriese, I would not have met you. And when I met you, you were living in a foster home, but you had a nice foster mother. We'll talk about her too. But you were in pain. And that was one of the things you talked about with our kids today, because you also substitute teach from now and again. You really don't have to. You just
No. I did that on the way. I don't do that anymore.
Okay, honey.
Now I just go. I just left the school speaking to the class there, but no, I don't have to.
Okay. So RF said I'm on YouTube and it's loud and clear, and I'm all ears. Thank you. And on YouTube, your viewers can also ask questions. Okay. So once you put that link up there, they can do that. She just want to make sure y'all covered, honey. She don't want to leave nobody in the back. Nobody. She loves y'all that much.
That's right.
So, Catriese, you were in a lot of pain, and you said one day, I listened to your story. I didn't cut you out. I heard your heart, I heard your pain. And can you tell me what I told you to do? Or you tell them what I told you?
Yes. Just a reminder of what you told me to do. You literally told me to write a letter to myself. And as a person who is a writer, to myself was life. That letter became a pivotal turning point moment in my life. The impact of that letter, I was a person who wrote, I journaled a lot incessantly, journaled and read incessantly. But I journaled, and, that letter, literally, it was such a powerful letter. I wrote a letter to myself.
What were you supposed to write a letter to yourself about?
You said just write a letter to yourself. And I needed to capture the moment and what I was wanting to do in my life, my plans.
So where you were and where you wanted to go.
Where I wanted to go.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right. Okay. So you did that at 16 years old.
I did that at 16 years old. Yeah.
What did you say to yourself that day?
So I said, one of the things that I said was about, being able to make decisions for me.
For yourself.
That it was literally like it's okay to move on letter. That was the tenor of the letter. I had big plans for my life. Now that I'm here, I didn't, I have big plans. I have big plans for my life.
Now, when you first got into this world, you were 3 months old?
3 days old.
3 days old when you were adopted.
When I was picked up I was never adopted.
Well, okay, was she the same person that picked you up?
She was the same person.
When you were 3 years old?
When I was 3 days old.
3 days old. And then how long
hours.
did you, what's her name?
Her name is Hardy Roden.
That's okay.
And she is now deceased.
Hardy?
Hardie.
Okay. Well, she blessed you, but a lot of people have a lot of horrible stories.
Absolutely.
About being in okay. Did any of those things happen at that house?
Absolutely.
But it wasn't her fault. Okay. Okay, God bless the dead. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't want to get you into that.
I mean, it's not. It happened.
It happened.
It happened. It was unfortunate.
Uh-huh.
And I know that I would move differently in my own home if I have foster children.
Okay, so we are going to go from your worst to your best, and
Right.
you're going to give us
Yes.
5 strategies so that
And
we
the
can do the
reason
same
why,
thing.
in
Go
saying
ahead.
that, why it's so clear, and it's so you have to make it clear to yourself, because one, pain can only take you so far.
I'll put that down there. Pain can
Only take you and I so far. Pain is a temporary motivator. So if you're motivated by pain, listen, that's short-lived. You have to be careful with being motivated by pain, because that can turn into prolonged anger, equaling which turns into bitterness.
Yes.
That's what prolonged anger does to us. Pain is a hurt. You don't want to live from a hurt space. You want to live from a whole space.
Wow, that's powerful. So when you wrote the letter to yourself and you gave your plan as to where you wanted to go, you mentioned to me that it gave you the courage to make the next step. What was the next step?
Well, the next step was an opportunity that was presented to me through a police investigator who came to the house, coming to arrest someone, and they were not there. So anyway, she talked to me instead, and she gave me some insight and some intel that really allowed me to push that courage all the more forward to making that decision, that next leap. I took a leap.
Where'd you go?
I called my birth dad, who I was not in regular communication with at the time, and I said, "Hey, I think I need you to pick me up."
Right.
And to his credit, he said yes. He said, I'll just give me a few minutes. He came and picked me up. He took me out there. I gathered my things, and he took me out to where he and his wife had purchased a house.
Okay.
Now, he was no longer living there, as they were having their own, issues in the home. So he was no longer living there, but I lived there for a few years.
So she helped you?
She let me stay there.
And is that when you got serious about your education?
I was serious about my education before then. That's what prompted me to move. That was the final thing that the investigator told me that made it the right move for me, because I was not as challenged as I could have been at East High School in Kansas City. I wasn't as challenged, and I knew it. I had worked my way out of a lot of the classes and stuff like that, and I just wasn't challenged.
Okay.
And so when she told me that the classes are harder out there and they prepare you for college, I'm thinking in my head, college is my next step. And so for me, that was my motivator, is knowing that I had an opportunity at a real education, a hefty education, while at while living, just trying to get from one step to the next. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you took a huge leap, my dear.
Did.
You went very far.
Yep.
Now you're in Florida.
Can
you, through your strategies, let's talk about your first strategy tip from moving from your worst life to your best life in 2023.
Sure. First strategy is one, the future is community. The future is community. The current is really, the present is really community. You want to create, build, invite members to your community who will sharpen you and hold you accountable.
Okay. How can you do that when you're angry?
So I guess one of the first things you need to do is sit down and plan, strategize what it is you're going to do. I often say that I only have one person to manage, and that's me. And from my own self-management comes everything else in other relationships and other people, other places, other things that I have to do and have business with.
Right.
At the end of the day, you have to manage you. You must take the time to water your own garden. That's another book that's forthcoming, hopefully this year, from myself. Water your own garden. And I talk about how once you water your own garden, you are better postured to water the other relationships and missions, the other work in your life. There are a lot of people running on empty. A lot of people working out of nothing.
Mhm.
You don't always have to be that way. That's not always healthy for you to be that way. You will have to stop and address some things. So pain can only take you so far. So the first thing to do is to assess your situation, see what you're really doing, and get clear on what you really want to do. Number two.
When did you become
Excuse me.
clear? No, you're okay.
Yes. Mhm.
When did you become clear? Because life changes.
It does.
Right? And
It does.
that whole thing of write your 5-year goal plan, I love that. But baby, let me tell you something. Some of us, I took vision board changed my life.
Yes,
Vision
absolutely.
board, the visuals of it.
You know, I've been doing those for since 2015, and I was going to do again this year, but I had to go a different. I saw a lot of people wanting to do the vision boards, and I think because I'm so passionate about it and about the way that it's done, I said, let me go a different way this year. I thought I was going to do that, but I said, let me go a different way this year. So I'm going to do something different. But vision boards are powerful. I still do them personally. And I'm going to tell you, everything on my real estate vision board is powerful.
And have you, before we even get to your real estate, the $2 million closures.
Six point, yeah.
Oh, we'll be there in a minute. The $6 million. Okay. Vision. Often, I love, as the teacher in me likes to define what those are. So vision is what you see yourself doing in your lifetime.
Absolutely.
And
vision is a visual. It is literally an image.
A visual is an image of what you see yourself doing, what you see yourself having.
This is what you look like.
Yeah. In 2007, I did 2 vision boards. One was for my personal relationship with my son because I had gone through a divorce and I was questioning my role as a mother. You know, sometimes people go through divorces and they feel like failures, but I need people to understand that there is life after divorce. And we can talk about that one day. And the other one was looking at my career because I had started out wanting to be like the one and only Oprah Winfrey. And to be quite honest, I remember taking my business card, one that I made, like you go to Kinko's and make it. And I put it by a picture of Oprah. And above it, I put words, woman thou art loose, because a vision board has words. So if you feel like you're calling yourself crazy stuff, like I said on my first board, it was like, you were a wonderful mother. Okay. A love supreme. And do you know, Catriese, as a result of that, there's something called the RAS, the reticular activating system in your brain.
That's right.
So when you wrote down what I asked you to write, your brain started to identify ways to achieve that.
So what that letter did is it connected with a desire already on the inside of me. And it was a multi-leveled approach.
Right.
As I said in the first interview, it's a multi-leveled approach. And then it starts, you know, and then you come in and then the investigator comes in and then my birth dad comes in and then it's like everything is it's moving along a continuum,
and it doesn't look pretty all the time.
Oh gosh,
that was
the process.
The process is ugly.
Being made into anything is a violent process.
So how do you stay in the process?
I love it. I love this question.
Okay, how do you stay?
Literally, the most important part of your life is being processed, because people like to say these cute statements that I had everything I need. You did. But you had to get it worked out of you.
What do you mean?
You're already as great as you're going to be. Whether or not you manifest that greatness is a matter of process.
Okay, tell me about that. I mean, you're already as great as you're going to be.
You're already as great as you're going to be. You're already as great as you're going to be. But it's already on the inside of you.
What if I feel like a failure?
Because you don't see the results, because you need process to push you.
Okay, what type of process?
You need an honest process. You need everybody's process is different.
Okay.
Your process is not going to be mine. Mine is certainly not going to be yours, because I'm going somewhere probably different than you, right? And so at the end of the day, it is process. Once we have been processed, process means I stay in it. I endure it. I endure seasons that I don't necessarily want to endure. Now, I will say this.
Yes.
I'm not advocating for people to endure abuse.
Thank you.
To endure all of that crazy. I'm not really advocating that. But you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you've been in places where you want to get and break free from, but there is a time to exit. And sometimes the only way to get out of a process is to actually go through it. The way out is through. It's not, I'm going to let somebody, because this is the reality. Some people, when life gets hard, rather than leaning into the hard times, they go find an escape.
Like a man,
a relationship, a drug, sex, whatever door you open. And so what happens is you begin to open up doors that you don't have the capacity to close. And you don't have the capacity to navigate through. And so it's important that if you're going to be your greatest self, you're going to deliver out your greatest self, you're going to have to sit in some uncomfortable places to get to some very successful spaces.
Give us an example of an uncomfortable
For instance, when I was going through, man, listen, I was going through it and I didn't have anywhere to be. I didn't have anywhere to stay. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I went and I said, I'm just going to stay here. And I stayed there and it was ugly.
You stayed at somebody's house?
It was at a house.
Okay.
It was just a house. Can we just say a house?
Okay.
It was a house.
A house.
And actually I did actually stay with someone in that season and it was miserable for me.
How'd you get out of it?
It was miserable. I said, I am done.
When did you
quit?
Okay, you were talking about
I am through.
You talk about the process. Some of you got to stay in and some you have to come out. How did you distinguish the difference between the ones that you need to go through and the ones you need to go away from?
So there's a point at which in my process I felt like I was going to lose it. Right?
Your mind.
My mind.
Okay.
My mind, my standard. I'm going through and my clothes are not looking like I want them to look. I'm not presenting like I want to. I'm not living like I desire to. And so, it was so painful. It was so painful. When I look back on those times, it is so amazing to me though. What was amazing is that I realized this is the feeling that I had. If I can try to paint a picture.
Okay, please.
Is that, okay, there's static again.
You're okay. Don't worry about that. Okay. One. Focus on
all
this.
Right. So if I can say this, I was going through, it's like I'm climbing up a hill, and I'm climbing up the hill, and I'm digging my hands into the side of the hill, right?
Okay.
And I'm still losing ground, so I'm sliding down. At some point on the slide down, you just surrender to the fact that you're sliding down. And so sometimes in my process, I had to surrender. And it wasn't until I surrendered to the process that things actually started to make sense. After you hit rock bottom, you can't even go any lower. After you hit rock bottom, you can't, listen, that's the lowest space. That's the lowest place. But many of us don't want to hit rock bottom because of the way it's going to look, the way it's, and I'm going to tell you, looks are temporary.
Right.
I look better than I ever looked in my life. Hello?
Come on. Well, love on yourself.
Listen.
You are now.
Looks are temporary. Not having money is temporary. Not having a car is temporary. Not having a house is temporary. And we don't want to be temporarily made uncomfortable for a temporary season, just so we can live out the purposes on the inside of us that bring forth greatness in all these other seasons.
Let me jump in here for a second. Ma'am. Because when you think about processing and knowing which ones to go and which ones to stay, I'll give you an example. One of the hardest things ever was looking at my mother's lifeless body in a casket at the age of 5, knowing that she passed away of an overdose of heroin. That is rampant still. At one point in my home, drugs surfaced again. It was crack this time. And I came to a crossroad where I had to decide, was I going to live with my boyfriend, which we started fighting, or was I going to trust God? Okay. So in the midst of that, I learned how to distinguish what to stay in and to get out of based on my relationship with God, knowing that God is love.
Absolutely.
When I went back to the abandoned home, now it wasn't pretty, but I had a prayer partner. There were things that I knew and I believed based upon what God told me were going to change.
Mm-hmm.
If there was no remnant or reminder of what God was going to do and I didn't see God in it, I had to go.
That's right.
When I was in a marriage and the guy busted me in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was not God, and it was never, ever going to be.
Mm-hmm.
When I bathed in the basement of Donnelly College, because I wanted to go to college, all I saw was the end goal. And I knew if I stayed with going to school, if I stayed and I was uncomfortable, not that I was getting ready to die, but that it was an inconvenience, that I was going to reach my goal.
Right.
So that was a part of the process. Now, in the midst of that process, Catriese, there was a professor, and I didn't have a car. Okay, I didn't have a car. We're gonna talk about your car with your. She started the car with a screwdriver. We're gonna get to that one after this one.
Yes.
And I needed a car. And he was from Africa, and he just thought I was the prettiest thing ever. And he took me to find a car, Catriese. And it was a black Honda Prelude, honey. I sat in that car, and this is what I said: God, is this you? He said, you know that's not me. Because you're getting ready to compromise your sexual integrity. And this is not what I have for you. So I turned down the deal, Jesus. And I took the grant money that I had and I bought a car from the auction. So when you say going through the process, think about, will this process make me better?
Right.
Or
exactly.
bitter?
Exactly.
I think that's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, the thing is, the reality is sometimes the process is so hard that it does make people bitter.
Okay.
It does.
And then what do you do?
First of all, the process messes you up before it delivers you anew.
Okay.
The process cleans you up to deliver you anew. So if you're bitter, you're still in the process.
How do you know when you're bitter?
You know when you're bitter when bitterness is something that happens deep on the inside of you. It's unmistakable. Bitterness is something that eats at you. It absolutely eats at who you are. It eats at who you want to be. You're no longer yourself because bitterness has now taken over you, and you are somebody else. Living somebody else's life. You are not who you set out to be. You are who you become as a result of a situation, traumatic or whatever it was that set you off. Yeah. You are not yourself anymore. And you should know when you are, the Bible says the heart knows its own bitterness. You pass anger. You pass anger. You're not just angry.
I think bitterness also comes in where it says, like I said to you earlier, that in life, when you're going through this, you can either get ahead or you can get even. When you're in bitterness, you're trying to get even. I'm going to get them back for what they did to me. But when you're trying to get ahead, you're surrendering, saying, God, I can't do that. I can't change this person, but I can trust you.
Right.
I can cry knowing that in your word, you bottle up my tears.
Right.
Knowing that in this thing, as long as you're with me, I'm going to be all right. Let me tell you a quick story, Catriese. When I was going through that homeless experience, I met a guy at church, and he was very good looking, and he was well put together.
Always.
And he had lights, and I didn't. Okay, let's be real. And so I liked going with him during the weekend because I was going to be able to bathe. He had lights. His place was really nice. Well, there was times where I would feel death on me. When I was with this guy. And I didn't understand why. I just felt death. But all I knew is I'm going to be with him on Friday and Saturday, and he's going to take me home in the morning so I go to church and get in the choir. Can we talk about real stuff? Okay.
Let's talk about real stuff.
So one day he did that, and we were getting in the car, and a guy got out of a car with a gun and pointed the gun at the windshield that I was in.
Wow.
And I remember saying, oh, God, I don't want to die. And the guy didn't pull the trigger. Now, you know that's grace. And the guy he put the car in reverse, and he said to me, do you know that guy? Now, he knew I didn't know that guy. Backed up, I got to go to church. You know, I was like, God, thank you, Jesus. But do you know I went back again? See, this is when we're talking about process versus foolishness.
That's right.
This time when I went, he was in a completely different community. He lived in a gated community. His house was perfectly white. it was one of the prettiest things I had ever seen,
Mm-hmm.
right? But McDonald's to get the breakfast the next day, I still felt that spirit of death.
Mm-hmm.
I started snooping. And when I went in the bathroom, Catriese, I opened the bottom of the sink,
Mm-hmm.
and there was this huge glass tray with cocaine on it and razors and things I had never, ever, ever seen before in my life.
Wow.
Come to find out, this guy was a drug dealer.
Oh, okay.
When he got back home, I said, I'm ready to go. That time, I never went back.
Okay.
So when you talk about process, meaning it's going to be an inconvenience, but it's not going to cost me my life.
That's
and
correct.
I think that's what you're talking about.
Correct.
Yes?
Correct.
Okay.
So it's going to be completely inconvenient sometimes.
Inconvenience.
The process, because it gets into all areas of our life.
Mm-hmm.
But I've learned so much about myself in the process.
Okay.
Again, talking about the worst days are over. My worst days are over. Yes, I still, there are things that, happen and it's like, oh yeah, that hurts.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing, Sheryl Crow has a song that says the first cut is the deepest.
Ooh.
The first cut is the deepest. And she's talking about trying to love again and how to, love again. And I say that sometimes we need to get in a place where we can live again.
Okay.
And the process allows us to be healed to live again, because we are acknowledging ourselves. We're getting a clear strategy, a clear plan. Mm-hmm. We are building community. We are building a community. After we have gotten ourselves clear, we need to build a community based on who you are. Not only a community to get you business success, you need a community for personal success.
And how many people do you need in your community, though?
That depends on what, there's no stated number. That depends on who you need.
Don't mind me and my church fan. I'm hot flash.
You have to sit down and consider what you need in your, what do you need? What are you asking of yourself?
But you have to know where you're going, right?
People, you have to know, you have to have an idea of where you're going.
Who were the first people in your community?
The first people in my community were teachers.
Okay.
Were mentors, were good friends, and their families. Quite frankly, the way my life has been is God has had all of these other people step in. So where I thought I missed and I lacked, other people have stepped up in my life tremendously. I've had teachers, I've had mentors, I have coaches. Even playing basketball, speaking of coaches, those type of coaches, my basketball coaches were amazing. They seeded things into my young spirit that I still live. Go hard or go home, and I know those are like really sports slogans and stuff like that, but those are the things that I bring to business, into life, that I want to do everything with all of my might. So I build a community of people that speak to me and hold me accountable, because the other side of success could ruin you.
How so? Because
you can become full of yourself. You can become prideful. You can become arrogant. You can become harmful and denigrate others and degrade others. And this now, because you don't have to, all of that stuff, you have to be careful.
Okay, so listen to this. Here's my question to you.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, let's do a plug in here. You're watching Finally Free with me, Dolores Jones, your comeback coach, simply here to show you how, help you out, bring people on the show that will show you how to bounce back better than before, with strategy. So you're not bitter, but you're better. The one thing, Catriese, that I thought about as you were talking, because your worst time was, you would say, the 16 years in a foster home. Was that the worst?
Maybe it was the worst
moment.
Right? It was the worst.
Okay.
But
now your best is, let's go there for a second.
My best time.
Where are you now?
Well, my best time is understanding that the lessons in the worst seasons were so royal and golden that I can pull from them, and not only, help and embolden and blazon my life, I can pour into other people and not have. I don't have any issues with what has happened to me.
So it's not the money? Like, now let's be honest, in 2022.
Money is good. Money, the Bible says money answers all things.
It sure does, honey. Let me answer your phone, because in 2022, you closed 2 multi-million-dollar million real estate deals. Tell us how that even came to be. You left Kansas City.
Right.
Was
I left
necessary?
Kansas City. It was so necessary to leave. That's one of the things to number 3, I would say, is that you have to get in a posture for success. A lot of people do not posture themselves for success. If success is 100 miles away from you, if you want success, you better find yourself getting 100 miles away from where you currently are.
But what if you've never left home?
For people that have never left home, I feel bad for you all, because that's the great hole, the sinkhole of comfort. And you have to put yourself, I literally put this is number 4. I put myself in places that are uncomfortable. Even now, I have a goal this year for my real estate. It's an uncomfortable goal. It's something that I've not seen done, but I believe it can be done if I put myself, put my pedal to the metal and do what it needs.
What do you mean it's uncomfortable?
It's uncomfortable because it's a goal that's so much bigger than me. It's going to require me. I got to hire certain people. I got to, invite other people into my circle and that I had not before.
Smarter people, right?
These are people who are position holders within my business and are able to help me so that I can go to the level that I need to go, because every round goes higher and higher.
Yeah.
You don't get comfortable on a level just because you achieve some things. I mean, I let everybody else kind of applaud me and all of that stuff, but I know on the inside, I have a higher height that I'm trying to reach. So I'm not resting on my laurels. I'm not comfortable.
What was the moment you knew you had to leave Kansas City? And then how did you go where you were going?
There were several moments.
Okay.
The several moments. One moment was my car quit.
Right in the midst of
the car that I was. There was a car. I didn't have a car, and I needed a car, and I was barely making any money. And that car was only it was $800. I talked him down to $500. I wanted to take it for $300. He said $500. I can do $500. I said okay. This car was so ugly. It was so gutted. I got about 5 tickets in it. The car was ugly, and I had to start it. I literally had to start the car with a screwdriver. I've only seen that in movies.
Okay, with a screwdriver.
With a screwdriver.
You stuck it in the ignition. And
literally, I was like amazed. And
so you didn't even need a key. You just needed a screwdriver.
I remember at the time, no, I did not need a key. I didn't have a key. He said the only thing is I'm missing a key. I didn't know what that meant at the time.
The man sold you a car
so
for
he said,
yes,
to some guy off the street. And so he said, but you can have it, and you got to start it like this. And so that was what it was. Okay, I started it just like that.
That's what it was. What are you driving now, if I can ask?
I lease a car.
Why don't you really? Why?
Because I want to. No, the market is not fit for buying.
Okay. So one of the things I wrote down, you talked about process. You talked about posture. What else? Oh, you talk about people.
People. Okay. You need people. You need a community.
Okay. So that's number 3 or 4. Where are we at now?
Let's see. Your personal self.
No, I was saying, how did you get to Florida?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Florida was popped up on a list of cities. And I decided that my boss at the time had come back and she said, hey, there's an opportunity in Florida. Do you want to go to Florida and help build, set up this office?
So were you in real estate when you were in Kansas City? I was an
assistant.
Okay. How did that happen for you?
Literally the young lady said, I need someone I can trust. And I need you to be my assistant. Her assistant quit on a Friday, and by Monday she had no assistant. And so she said, I need you to be my assistant. So that's what it was. And I was immediately in that space. And she also coached me in some ways.
Is she still in Florida? Are you still with the same person?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
So when did that relation? So you were working as an assistant. I'm sure you were afraid because it was unfamiliar territory. How do you deal with unfamiliar territory?
I have learned to lean in. I have learned to lean into what is unfamiliar and what is unknown. I cannot forge new territory. I cannot conquer anything new if I don't lean in and be open and accessible to newness out there.
Okay.
And so, yes, I lean in. I absolutely lean in.
Did you ever want to say, I'm going back to Kansas City?
Actually, my mantra was, I can't go back. I can't go back. What am I going back to? I didn't have anything when I left there. No, there was no going back. There was no. I said that I've dealt with the worst in Kansas City. Whatever happens to me in Florida, I am better prepared. This is the thing. This is my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I'm better equipped. There was a lot of, what if you die? What if this? I said, well, if I'm dying right here on the beach.
I love that, because I'm coming to visit.
How you gonna get along when ain't none of your family? I'm like, well, all of my family's here, and I'm just as bad off, you know.
So you wanted better.
So I understood. I understood what they were saying, but I wanted them to understand that I was divorced from what they were saying.
Is that only in your new book?
It had no hold
Divorced
on
from
me.
what they were saying.
I was divorced. I had no relationship to what they were saying. Their words no longer held me. The capacity, I had given myself out. I had given myself away. I had supported people and lifted other people up and used my my work ethic, my talents, and my gifts and abilities to raise others up. Now it was time for me. And so the decision to move from Florida to Florida was a decision for me.
You made it for you. Was that the birthday gift you gave yourself?
That was the birthday gift I gave myself that year. I literally moved my clothes that day. And I remember a gentleman
from Kansas City.
From Kansas City. I moved my clothes. I said, they said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to drop my clothes off in Florida. They said, oh, you're really serious about moving? I said, I am. I said, y'all see you later.
When you said you divorced yourself from the other people, how do you do that?
You have to be careful who you lend your ear to, because the ear, as someone once pointed out, is shaped like an embryo. And you have to be careful that who breathes into your ear have your best interest at heart. And so these people have your best interest at heart. They're going to be speaking life to you. And so what I heard based on my relationship with God is that I'm good to go. Really? And it didn't even matter to me what anyone else said. I was respectful to them. I was, hey, bless you, pray for me, all of that stuff.
How old were you?
I was 30.
Can I tell you about my finally free moment?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when I met you, I was married to a minister.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me correct that. A man who was a minister. Okay. Let's just make that clear.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that out of a false prophecy. Because I didn't know better, right? I literally went back to Columbia, Missouri at the J school, and I saw my future, but because I was so confused from this false prophecy, there was a guy who loved me, and I knew he did, and I told him I knew who I had to marry.
Wow.
Okay, so at 23, I stood there 2 hours late to my own wedding, blah, blah, blah. But here was a turning point for me, and it happened a few years ago, Catriese. I was doing some work for Fly Nubian Queen, which some of my followers saw my videos there. And I was conflicted. I didn't know if I was Dolores on TV. Was I Dolores on, this is what happened. I admired a young woman. And like you said, be careful who you lend your ear to. So I reached out to her, Dr. Shauna. And I said, Dr. Shauna, can you tell me what you think? I mean, when you hear me. And she goes, honestly? Yeah. She says, I don't know if you're Dolores Jones Ricky's mom, or you Dolores Jones praise and worship leader. Are you Dolores Jones, the journalist? Who are you? And then she broke it down. And I said, what do you mean? She says, can I say this? When are you going to stop kissing people's ass? I said, what? Dolores, when are you going to stop kissing people's ass? Now, it goes down to intention. Am I doing this because I want them to love me? Or am I doing this because I think this is the best thing for me? We did a live interview like this on Fly Nubian Queen, and it was called, For the Record, ... I'm done kissing your ass. Catriese, when she put it, I cried on this show because she had people like we have comments here, and they're saying hot wiring. Let's go, Catriese. You speaking now. Come on, Catriese. Everybody's here. They're rooting you on, honey. I'm glad. When she said that to me, here I am. I'm on this show. And it's live. And she's hitting me hard. We talked about why I didn't want to go to a historically Black college. And I told her because when I went to the Black schools in Kansas City, Kansas, that everybody was mean. And so I didn't lean in. I was just like, I don't want to see nobody else like that. Not knowing that people can go away, but they can still be a fool if they don't change their mindset.
Correct.
So then people were challenging me. And I mean, I was crying, but I was also being liberated. So by the end of that brutal hour of questioning, she says, so when are you going to stop kissing ass? And I said, right now. So I found myself becoming intentional. One of the hardest things, let me say this, because you grew up for 16 years in a foster home. I grew up being raised by my grandmother, but I called my grandmother mother. And my mom's baby sister was my sister. And my mom's baby brother was my brother. And all of this was driving me freaking crazy. Because if I feared that that's all I had, that if I pissed them off, then that's it. And I remember one day my grandmother said, but they're all you have. And I said, no, they're not. And I didn't mean it in a disrespectful way. What I meant was this. If you're all I have and I have to kiss your ass, then what else is there? I had a community, the community you talked about. And so one of the hardest things, and my family was not happy with me, let me say that, is I went live. And I said, this is who my mother is. And I had to tell my grandmother, I said, there's nothing wrong with being a grandmother. But I'm your granddaughter. And this is my mom's baby sister. And so either if I'm the sister, then I need the respect of a sister. But I wasn't getting the respect of a sister. So I said, let me tell y'all I'm okay with being the niece. So that means I had to break down that whole ecosystem that was rooted on lies in order to save my life.
Right.
Now I'm at the point where you're at now, where I want to leave Kansas. Right. I got my first passport.
That's good.
I'm 52. People would say, why are you still in Kansas? Well, for one, I couldn't leave because you wanted me to leave. Like you said, I had to do it for myself. You don't have any regrets, do you? Do you?
Do I have any
regrets?
Oh, no. No.
Was it easy when you first got to Florida? Was it hard?
No, I was working. And it wasn't hard. The company had, everything was taken care of.
Really? So, was it what you imagined?
It was beautiful.
Was it the environment that was better?
It was peaceful. It was very peaceful.
Okay.
I didn't hear any gunshots. I didn't hear any bickering and arguing. No one tearing me down. No one questioning why is she wasting her talent? Why is she wasting her gift? Because the process was so hard on me. There were times when I couldn't operate at full
capacity because
I just didn't have it.
Was that here?
It was here.
I'm going to tell you some of the takeaways I got from you so far. Okay. Because we're talking about how to go from the worst. And it said the worst is over.
That's right.
And these are the strategies to live your best life in 2023 and do it unapologetically. I didn't hear you apologize at one time.
I'm not apologizing.
So to recap, you said people. People are important. Be careful about your relationships.
That's right.
Les Brown says it this way. He says, OQP, only quality people.
Only.
That's it.
Well, the reality is that if you meet someone, I've done in bus stations and, on planes and stuff like that, that person's input is as important.
So you got to be careful.
You got to be careful.
And even if it's blood.
That's right.
If it's blood.
You got to be careful.
I'm not even going to go there now. Okay. Then you said the process. Go through the process of healing. Go through the process of deliverance. Yes?
Yeah. Because the reality is that a lot of people are dealing with traumas, unhealed traumas. A lot of people are. And our unhealed traumas can keep us from success. It's the reality.
So what did you do when you came to your traumas, though?
I still do. I go talk to a therapist. Quick. And I talk to a therapist now for maintenance. It's kind of like auto maintenance.
I love that. Maintaining your mental health.
That's correct. I check in. You need to check in sometimes.
Did you have a moment where you were so depressed you thought about ending your life ever?
Yeah, that was I didn't think about me personally ending my life, but I prayed that God would just let it go. Let it go. This is before I left here. I was almost out of the process. But I needed to go through that one more step was I give up. I said, God, I have seen enough. I surrendered. That was the last step, was surrender.
Were you trying, you stopped trying to make it work?
Listen, I said, I'm through. I am done. I didn't want to do anything. But I remember in that time and in that space where I literally leaned into God so much harder. But I also prayed to him that he would let me sleep away in my sleep.
Really?
Absolutely.
When did you change the prayer?
Absolutely. What made me change? Yeah. I didn't change the prayer. I prayed it for months. I prayed it for months. And then I remember night after night, I was just in that space. I was praying that prayer, but then I would wake up and I would be like surprised that I was awake.
Really?
Yeah. I would go to sleep at night and pray that prayer. And I knew because my prayers had power. My prayers were powerful. And so,
did you start praying a different prayer?
No, I continued to pray that prayer. I was serious about that. And every morning I kept waking up. I kept waking up and I couldn't. And it was this. I wasn't going to injure myself. I didn't have that in me to do.
Okay.
I wasn't going to injure myself for self-harm. But every morning I told myself, if I wake up, I got to live it again. And I'm telling you, like nails on a chalkboard, I woke up, I was like, okay, here we go. Hit the floor, hit the ground, ready to go. It's just what it is. But I was still pouring into other people's lives, still praying for other people, still, and then privately having this battle, and this, and I'm seeing as I'm praying for them, prayers are being answered immediately. I'm like, well, what's wrong with the prayer I'm praying?
For myself.
Right.
I took an overdose of pills.
No,
and got in the car. This was in 2015. And I was going through what you were going through, where I did, every time I woke up, it was going to be a battle. And I just was tired. Yeah, I was going through so much because I had put my nose in everybody else's business. So I was picking up everything. And I felt like I failed my son. And so I took a whole bottle of lorazepam. And I got in the car and I started driving. And Catriese, I don't remember arriving at Ronnie's house, my mom's baby sister's house. I woke up in the hospital under suicide watch.
Wow.
Ronnie said that they heard the sirens. Now, it's like with 60 miles per hour on I-35. I don't remember. She said when I got out the car, the sirens had everybody come out of the apartment complex. And that I told them I wanted to die. And they were able to tell them, no, she doesn't. She was on this medication because I was trying to find medication. I'm an advocate when it comes to mental health. And I do think in certain cases you need medication, but you need to know what works for you. So I applaud you with the therapy. I actually have seen a psychiatrist. They actually look at your brain. They know what you need. But it got to that point. But the crazy part was before I took the overdose, my son Ricky at the time was 17. And he was going to Shawnee Mission North. And I would try to fake it. Right. And then one day I couldn't fake it by the time he got back home. And he looked at me, he says, Mama, I'm afraid I'm going to come home and you're going to be dead. And I looked at God and I just said, this is what I said to Ricky. I said, Ricky, God's not going to let that happen. And then I said, God, you're not going to let that happen. And these are the words I received. You shall live and not die.
That's right.
And I had to hold onto that for the 2-year process. Of feeling like the floor was falling off from under me. And I was still encouraging people and I was still showing up on television. And I was calling the producer from the hospital. Lauren, I can't make it this Monday. I have the pink eye. Lauren, I got pneumonia. Lauren, my son got pneumonia. And eventually, Catriese, I had to do what you did. I had to choose me. Did you cry when you chose yourself?
Yes. I totally remember the day I broke down behind the weight of everything. Um, yeah, absolutely. But it was necessary, and uh, you know, I just, yeah,
Do you
I
still have
had
rough
some.
days?
Of course, yeah, I'm alive. I'm alive to this life. Definitely
Are
rough days.
there memories from the past that creep in, or is it just something completely totally new?
Being totally transparent, there are some days. Me and one of my good friends, we talk a lot about different things. We have parallels
Mhm.
as well, and you know, one of the things that I always say is that because you can reach or connect with the next individual on a human capacity,
Okay.
on a human level.
Right.
And so to that end, yes, there are times when things do come up because healing is not this straight line.
Yeah.
Healing is
It's not
messy.
linear.
It's
Yeah.
not. It's
Okay.
messy. It's jagged.
Yeah.
You know, it's back and forth. It's, it's all that stuff. And I don't think you go through, I know you don't go through the things that I've gone through, and you all of a sudden everything is, because trauma takes place on many, it's a
Levels.
multi-layered level process.
What level do you think you're
And
at?
so I think I'm on the top level.
Right.
I had shared with my accountant that I see this as like a house, and I feel like I'm on top of the roof now.
Oh, now.
Yeah, I feel like I'm on top of the roof.
Even when
I
you
started in the basement.
That's the book that helped change my life by Iyanla Van Zandt, and it was called The Value in the Valley. And that's what her book is about. You go from this floor to that floor to that floor.
Really?
I
Okay.
see success as a seesaw. The seesaw of success. And the lady said, Dolores, please write the book. And I said, okay, because one day you're up, and then one day you're kind of here, and then eventually though you hit the pinnacle, right? But you talked about maintenance. And so as we wrap it up, I want you to talk about, if you don't mind, the posture, how to position or get in the posture for success, because that's what this is about.
Success is an internal, external connection, relationship, if you will. And so if you really want to posture yourself for success, you really want to find out what's on the inside of you. Because the seed, if it's in you, you can produce. You can produce. So don't worry about people stealing your ideas. Don't worry about people doing whatever people do. Just be concerned about what's on the inside of you. Because what's in you is coming out of you. And when I say that it's an internal, external, I mean that whatever is happening on the inside is going to produce on the outside. So you want to constantly be downloading healthy, great things on the inside of you so that you can produce and push out all that other craziness. And you get to the point where you're constantly pushing out greatness, that you're constantly pushing out the goals, that you're constantly pushing out achievement, that you're constantly, and guess what? It's about your integrity. You got to have a certain level of integrity, your morals, your values. You got to have your values aligned properly. You can't think that you're going to cut everybody else's neck off and no one is coming for yours. Success actually makes you a target. So it's important that you build up your internals so that your externals, that you're not dismissed or denigrated or degraded by what happens on the outside, because relationships are going to shift when you hit the goal.
So what's next for you?
What's next is I've mentioned it earlier. I'm going to be giving a series of talks here in 2023, mostly down in Florida. So if people want them, they have to come. And I don't think I'm going to do them live. But yes, I'm going to be giving talks. It's something that I call the 1%er, the 1%er mindset. It's about just constantly getting better, just constantly doing better.
Is that the name of your book too?
No, that's not the name. I haven't released the name of the book just yet. I will when it is done. So then there's a whole marketing thing that's going to go out after that.
Do you recommend that we get your first book? Because I know you said, we were doing a break and you were like, I don't talk about that pain anymore.
Yeah,
So is the book something you want people to still have?
You get to a point of healing that you don't even have a connection to that as much as you did before. Yeah, I Am the One I'm Waiting For. It still blesses people's lives. People still buy the book. You go to my website at catrieselive.com, CATRIESELIVE.com, and you can pick up the book there, and I'll get it out to you.
You know what?
Thank you so
Such
much.
a pleasure to interview one of my former students that you can tell she's not a kid anymore. You're not that 16-year-old teenager. Like I said, you're a phenomenon. I am so gracious and grateful to God, and it makes me a bit emotional because sometimes we feel insignificant, especially when we've been broken. But to hear you say that over 30 years ago, there was something that I said that took you from the pit and a prison onto a path of excellence. You know, the word says, you know, people say only what you do for Christ will last. So if this was my last day, if it were, I would be pleased. I love you. And I am so extremely proud of you.
Well, thank you so much for, again, having me on. It's always something when I come to your shows. And I appreciate, again, the opportunity to be here. And even, again, I say thank you for the idea of the letter. Because, like I said, I was writing myself before, but that letter, it hit different. It really did.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate your obedience in a place where you didn't want to be.
I sure did not want to be in a classroom.
But even in a place where you didn't want to be, you were able to bless my life and open up some doors.
Well, give me a headway about the 1%, because I'll get a ticket and fly to Florida. I will do that for you. Because I was at your I surprised you at your first book signing. So why stop here?
Right.
And then maybe you could. I told you you're going to be my agent. You know, because you're doing that. Bravo, bravo, everybody! Please share the link, and don't forget to reach out to Catriese. The other thing is, don't you ever give up on yourself, because God knows the end from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And one of the commonalities between Catriese and I is we love God, and we knew that God had a purpose.
My God.
Allow the pain of yesterday to be beneficial in your purpose for today. I'm Dolores Jones, your comeback coach. It's such a pleasure. I look forward to an amazing 2023. We're waiting on you. So come on over to the other side. Yes. You all have a good evening. Thank you again. Bye-bye now.